Hello, everyone. My name is Betty Asmerl. I'll be speaking about malaria from the year specifically 2000 and 2017. So let's begin with what is malaria? Malaria is a life-threatening disease caused by parasites that are transmitted to people through mosquito bites. So coming face to face with malaria. Growing up in America, malaria wasn't something I really heard about, not something I really understood. When I was preparing to go see my family in Eritrea, my doctor was so adamant about taking a vaccine and making sure that I took my medication every single day. To be honest, I thought maybe she's just a bit dramatic. It's not that big of a deal. And as soon as I touched down the city of Asmara, I got so many mosquito bites. It was ridiculous. My elders were so concerned. And they made sure that I took my medication every single day and that, I was staying protected. And that's when I kind of got the understanding, well, maybe my doctor isn't so dramatic. Maybe she just knows what she's doing. All right. So next, viewing malaria from a macro and micro level. So I was a political science major, so we speak about macro and micro a lot. So let me start with the World Health Organization has created a plan to see a steady decline of malaria and eliminate 90% of it by 2030 by using preventative measures. Now, from the year 2000 to 2015, malaria cases have decreased by 37%, and the mortality rate has decreased by 60% globally. On a macro level, we see that everything is well. Macro is like the overall big picture. Now, but, so what's the problem? If everything is well, if everything is declining, what issues do we have? So to begin, the results are disproportionate. Now, although we are seeing great numbers on a global scale, we are still dealing with the issue that the decrease in cases and mortality rates are not as effective with countries that have the largest number of malaria cases and deaths. So for example, in the year 2000, there were 15 countries that saw a 32% decrease in cases. And although that is good, the rest of the world saw a 53% decrease. Now, viewing malaria on a micro level. Now, on a micro level, we can see that the majority of the countries who are affected by malaria is the leading cause of illness and death, especially among pregnant women and babies, and the cost of preventative care. So the amount of money that has to be paid for direct costs for preventative measures is estimated to be about $12 billion. And because malaria is mostly prevalent in poverty-stricken countries, then the world, it's causing economic growth of these countries to extremely decline. So with my project overall, I'm going to be analyzing the trends of deaths and cases of malaria and focus on whether the data is reflecting the World Health Organization's plan of soon eradication. So this was my data dictionary, and I'll be completely honest, because I did use a data set from the World Health Organization, everything was within one data set and I didn't have to use joins. So it was fairly easy for me. My key performance indicators. So my cases per year, it's just the amount of cases per year. We have our deaths per year, it's just how many deaths per year. Cases year over year calculates the average percentage of cases that are happening yearly. Deaths year over year calculates the percentage of deaths happening yearly. And the death rate is calculating the average rate of the amount of deaths happening because of malaria. So with my visuals, I have, as you can see, my slicer for 2000 to 2017. My first visual is a line and stat column chart, which focuses on the time frame. With this visual, we get to monitor on a macro level how many cases are happening a year, and also on a micro level, the average percentage of cases that are happening a year and or decreasing, and also the deaths per year. Next, we have our another line and stat column chart with a drill down as well. And this more so focuses on the location. With this visual, we're monitoring on a macro level the deaths per year based on the region. On a micro level, we are monitoring the average percentage of cases and deaths going on. And so with this drill down, we could further look into a region, let's say perhaps Africa, and we can see which countries specifically are causing a spike. Well, with Africa, it's actually pretty constant, but we could say the Eastern Mediterranean, we see Afghanistan and Djibouti causing a significant spike. Next, we have cases and location. Oh, well, the next visual is the map, which focuses on the cases and location. And what I did was I focused on making the bubbles, as you can see, the lower the amount of cases, the lighter the color, and the higher, the darker the color, as well as the smaller the bubble, the smaller the cases, and the bigger the bubble, the bigger the cases. And next we have my scatter chart, which in this visual, we analyze the cases year-over-year percentage and the deaths year-over-year percentage based on location. I made the x-axis reflect the cases year-over-year average, and the y-axis reflect the deaths year-over-year percentage. And the size of the bubble reflects the death rate percentage. With the bottom right, this one has the lowest deaths, the highest cases compared to the average. And up here would be the danger zone. So this is where, compared to the average, it has the highest, it has a higher cases year-over-year percentage and a higher deaths year-over-year percentage. So insight, we have a good insight. So with the World Health Organization, their whole plan is on slowly decreasing the amount of cases and deaths happening. And that's what we actually get to see. We see a steady decrease between 2011 and 2017. The death rate on average decreased by 1% every 2 years. And next with our negative insights. So although we do see that, that's a macro level. On a micro level, let's say, for example, the region, the Americas, from 2014 to 2017, we see the cases in Americas increase on average 7% a year. And that's not good because beforehand, during 2000, just beforehand, it was actually decreasing. And then we see sudden spikes just occurring. And with that, it kind of just, it was like they took 5 steps forward and then took 10 steps back. So we have to see why that's even happening, so that we could eventually eradicate it. And my suggestions overall is first, take preventative measures, continue to tell people to use mosquito nets, wear full sleeve shirts, use mosquito repellent creams, take conventional anti-malarials. Also continue to advertise. This is actually very prevalent and important because sometimes we see that advertisements are only occurring in the cities, and it also needs to go in areas that are more so like countryside where people need more awareness as well. Third is research. So what I checked was the World Health Organization does research every year, but sometimes that's not such a great thing because certain countries will see spikes happen within months and we don't even know why that's happening. And so many cases and deaths could have been prevented if they just would have done it monthly. And lastly would be hyper focus on those targeted the most. So those targeted the most are children and pregnant women, as well as women who just had babies and young toddlers. So an example of how we could hyper focus on them is like, let's say a woman just has a baby. What we can do is after she has a baby, give her some nets that she could put on her crib to protect her baby. And yes, that would conclude my presentation. Thank you so much.